Don't make your decisions like the cat who sat on a hot stove, Samuel Clemens taught. For while that cat will certainly never sit on a hot stove again, she will also never sit on a cool one. Mark Twain's point: don't jump to conclusions. Get the whole story before you conclude exactly what lesson is worth learning. Remember Twain's wisdom as I retell this story of a tragedy on Mount Everest. Accidents, even deaths, they're not isolated incidents on Everest. Over the years, 160 mountaineers have died trying to reach the top. Because of the many risks, veteran climbers Rob Hall and Scott Fisher explained to their client adventurers that they must adhere to a strict protocol. As he explained the rules for their ascent on Everest, Hall made sure everybody really understood the seriousness. "I will tolerate no dissension up there," he said to everyone in the camp. "My word will be absolute law, beyond appeal. If you don't like a particular decision that I make, I'd be happy to discuss it with you afterwards, but not while we're on this trek." Hall was rightly concerned about the same two things that every leader in business is concerned about. First, how can we keep missteps to an absolute minimum? Second, how can we make sure that our journey is safe and that we stay on schedule, remembering that many are not as experienced or as careful as we, their leaders. So like a lot of managers in books and articles, Hall and Fisher relied on strict rules and unquestioning compliance. Teammates, who had each invested $70,000 to safely and expertly experience the achievement of a lifetime, were told their safety required them to obey and execute commands, and execute them immediately. "We were," one wrote later, "indoctrinated not to question our guide's judgment." So what happened? Well, first, because of concern for all the adventurers who had been there before and never reached the top, Scott Fisher ignored his own guiding principle. If you're not to the top by 2, it's time to turn around. And nobody questioned. 17 of the 22 climbers, including Fisher and Hall, continued toward the peak well past 2 p.m. Their late afternoon descent became a perfect storm. Signals got crossed, bottlenecks caused further delays, and for several, including the leaders, supplemental oxygen ran out. Then came an unexpected blizzard with hurricane force gusts. Hall and Fisher both became disoriented, and nobody questioned. The result? 5 died, and everybody else was seriously injured. Neither Hall nor Fisher made it home. Outsiders quickly speculated about external causes. "Too many rank amateurs are climbing Everest these days," one wrote. "These leaders were simply incompetent," said another. "Everest," said one more, "Everest needs more rules, someone to police climbers and sign off on any questionable safety decisions." But they were all wrong. I believe that it was those ultra-strict directives and highly charged words that commanded everyone's absolute compliance. I believe that was the root cause of the disaster. Let me explain my thinking. Any amateur climbing Mount Everest comes to the mountain with feelings of great vulnerability. I mean, they're alone among many Type A strangers. They're in an unfamiliar and severe environment. And they're facing awesome dangers. To minimize vulnerability, each of the climbers has paid a respected expert, like Hall and Fisher, to look out for them. So that's their mindset as they're on the mountain. Now, on this mountain, their esteemed, trusted leaders tell them, if you don't like a particular decision I make, I'd be happy to discuss it with you afterward, but not while we're up on the hill. Hall's use of the word like was an innocent but very poor choice. Like is a highly charged word that's wide open to misinterpretation. Like could imply that climbers are being immature and thinking emotionally. The possibility that there could even be such a thing as an oversight in the expert's thinking or any complication that the expert is not seeing is rejected by both the choice of words and the tone of that directive. The word like implies that the man hired to assure the best outcomes doesn't trust you. In fact, the message goes one step further, saying, in effect, the climber shouldn't trust their own eyes. Read between the lines now, and you're going to see that there's another strong admonition. I will tolerate no dissension up there. Using those words, the leader has effectively labeled anyone who does speak up in any situation a dissenter. Dissent suggests that someone is being selfish, maybe egotistical, and definitely overall a very bad teammate. The underlying message is clear. To be considered a good summiteer, colleagues should simply zip it. Now, what does this story say to you? Based on your learnings to date and based on your own experiences, I know you've seen situations like this. I have scores of terrible outcomes from rule-bound organizations and strict directives from nearly godlike leaders. But what is the alternative? We need to stay safe. We need to minimize mistakes. Everyone doesn't have the experience of the leadership team. How do we solve this conflict? I'm not going to give you the answer. I want you to discuss it. I want you to consider it amongst yourselves and with some of your fellow members, and come to conclusions that we can share when we get together in Tiburon.